welcome to Liquid Lunch. We're coming at you from our brand new studio. Hey, Sandra?
What a great background.
Isn't it great?
Love
We just
that.
moved in today.
I know. It's amazing.
It's purple. I like the purple, and you can see the city behind us.
That's
Faded.
blue. I'm looking more like a sky, I think.
Well, purpley blue.
Indigo.
Okay.
Indigo, that's the color.
All right, indigo. So it's
happy Leafs didn't make the playoffs.
Oh,
day.
yeah.
I'm not happy that the Leafs didn't make. I didn't mean it that way. Just meant happy Leafs didn't make the playoffs. Day.
I'm you know, and I don't really care that much about hockey, but I thought, okay, so I watched Game 6 on Sunday night, and I thought, you know, that was a
pretty good game.
It was a good game. Not that exciting game, actually, because the Leafs were ahead the whole game, and they actually won.
But you know what? If you're a Leaf fan, it's exciting.
But then I thought, okay, this Game 7 is going to be incredible. And it was an incredible game.
Just not for the right side.
And
well, I guess that's depending.
And for the Leafs to lose. But the good news, although the Leafs are out of the playoffs, they did set another record.
For losing in such a short period of time?
They are the only team ever in Stanley Cup playoff history to be up 4-1 in the third period and lose the game.
What an honor. Wow. Will they go in the Hockey Hall of Fame for that?
Yeah. Well, they're already in the record book, you know. So, you know, I don't know. It's really to be that close and then to lose it like that is just even for me who doesn't really care that much about hockey. I'm still disappointed.
Well, and believe it or not, there are some people who live in Toronto who aren't Toronto fans.
Oh, I know.
And I was talking to them, and even they said, "Oh my God, you got to feel bad for Toronto fans." Even though they didn't want Toronto to win, they thought, "Wow, that's just cruel."
Yeah, it was.
You almost wonder if it's fixed, if it was planned for Boston to win, and right at the very end, it was conspiracy time.
You couldn't fix that.
I don't know. You could.
No.
All you have to do is that the goalie paid off.
Well, maybe you know, you could argue that Vancouver's fixed because Luongo just throws every game, or maybe the Sundins.
That's what I mean. Throwing the game, It just takes the goalie to say, "Okay, you know what? I'm just going to throw the game." It would be easy enough, wouldn't it?
It's easier for the goalie than anybody.
But I'm not suggesting that happen.
No. I guess.
But I think you know what? I think it was foreboding because we had hail the day before, right? We had a hailstorm, like a hailstorm. We had hail.
I know.
And I thought, wow, this is an ominous sign. But I actually thought it was almost an ominous sign that the Leafs were actually going to make it.
Well, let's not remind ourselves about that.
So we had two pretty awful things happening, but you know what? Onwards and upwards.
At least we didn't have frost. At least not in the city. My plants are still alive.
Yep.
So, and it's going to get warmer from here on in. So.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just tell people what we got coming on the show. We have Joshua Townsend coming on.
Yay, love Josh.
Who's developed a process called Clear Fear Forever. And we're looking forward to having, he's been on the show before.
Yes, he has.
And
he's got an event coming up, too.
Okay.
So we want to talk about that?
Also, we have a spokesperson for Muslims for Peace coming on the show.
I'm looking forward to that. That is going to be good.
Yes. And also we have, who's our fourth guest today?
This is my...
I know. I don't even know who they are.
Okay, this is like a surprise guest. Her name is Misty, and she's an amazing individual, and we will... I don't even want to say anything. We'll just wait for people to see who she is.
You have to give us a clue.
Okay. So it's something about living life without money.
Without money.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And just the miracles that you manifest when you fully trust in the universe.
All right. Okay, good.
Really amazing stuff.
So that's going to be great. Okay, but we're starting the show off. We have at least three of the guys from Drumhand here. We have Larry, Marcus, and Dave. And hi, guys. Welcome to the station.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So now I was reading about you guys earlier today, and that David, you were anyway. What I read was that you were the founder of the band, or something like that, co-founder. So let's just find out the story of the band. Like a Drumhand.
So Dave and I met through a mutual acquaintance 5 or 6 years ago, and the impetus for our meeting was that we both had experience traveling and researching music in West Africa.
Okay.
Wow.
So we're both trained percussionists. We had experiences playing jazz and rock and all sorts of different more popular commercial forms of music. But we spent some time in West Africa independently, came together and started. I guess we kind of created this study group. We wanted to continue playing some of the repertoire of the folk music and the traditional musics, and so we tried to get together with some other people to recreate this music. And this turned into Drumhand. We started writing our own music based on some of the themes and musical ideas. Interesting.
Okay, so were you guys both or all of you traveling in West Africa?
Well, Dave and I did, but not together. At different times. And then Marcus, we've known for I've known Marcus for a really long time from different musical projects over the years. He's played with pretty much everybody in Toronto, I think, at this point. Woodwinds of all sorts. So he's kind of our melody man right now, and today anyway.
Okay. All right. And now the three of you are here today, but are there other people in the group that aren't here today that we should mention?
We're missing Steve Mancuso. He's our third percussionist. He was also around pretty much from the beginning, and he's working up at York University teaching drums today, so he couldn't be with us. And then our fifth part is Rebecca Hennessy, local trumpet player, who she's so busy that we can't always get her to show up either. In demand.
It's great that you're working with such awesome artists, though.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Aren't we lucky?
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, now I have a question before we get into this, and we're going to hear some drums and stuff. But what was, like, Larry, for you, what was your interest? What was it that prompted you to, like, actually go to West Africa to kind of see it and learn it firsthand?
All the music that I had loved growing up, Motown, rock, jazz, blues, they all have roots in musics from Africa and other parts of the world. So I figured if I really wanted to get inside of those genres, I should just go to the source. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was signing up for, but I went, and it totally changed my musical world.
Okay, now, and did you go to, what countries did you go to?
I started off in Ghana, West Africa, and since then I've spent some time in Senegal and Burkina Faso, which are two relatively close by countries to Ghana.
Okay. And Dave, what countries did you go to, and what prompted you to take your journey completely separately from Larry?
Well, in fact, it's a very similar story to Larry. Same thing. But I've spent some time in Ghana studying music, but I've also been to some countries in East Africa.
I was just going to ask, so why West Africa and why not other parts? Like there's Northern and there's Southern Africa. Is there a reason for?
Well, in my case, I think the West African connection was simply based out of some of the contacts I had, and it was the music I'd become most familiar with.
Okay.
But you're right. There's great musical traditions all over. I mean, Africa is it's such a massive place,
and so much history and tradition.
Extremely diverse.
Yeah.
So there's no way we could possibly learn it all. So a small taste, even at this point. And we've been researching this music for years and years and years, and then starting to create our own music based on some of those themes and borrowing some of the instruments but. We make original music.
But I guess you can't help but bring a Canadian flavor to it because you are Canadian, correct?
Yeah, well, especially being from Toronto, because it's already such a diverse melting pot of different communities and cultures. Yes. So I think that's what Drumhand has become, a real mix of sources, because it's not only the African connection. We also, Steve is an expert in South American musical traditions.
Nice.
Marcus has had tons of experience playing in various salsa and South American rooted bands over the years too. Steve also is interested in Indian musical tradition. So all these things kind of collide together in Drumhand.
Sounds like you're more world music.
That's it. That's right.
So what should we do? Should we? Do you want to kind of? I don't know. What should we play a song? Should we kind of maybe you can show us some of the instruments?
Okay. How about this? We'll talk a little bit about the instruments, but maybe you guys should come over and join us and play a little bit with us. Okay. How about that?
I would love that. Okay, I'm not necessarily musical instrument-wise. You are, so you have an...
Why don't I go over there? I'll go sit in the chair.
We have this empty drum seat here for you.
And then you got this. Okay. Maybe you can stand up with these guys over here. Ta-da, we're getting up now.
Here we go.
Okay, so why don't I start by talking a little bit about some of the instruments. These drums that we have, I don't know if you can see them well on the camera. These are found all over West Africa, but we know them from Ghana, and they're made from carved wood. It's a single piece of tree wood, and we have these pegs that hold the drum head in place and allow us to tune the drum to different pitches. So, for instance, these two drums, this one's a little higher, and that one's a little lower. See, you already got the right technique and everything. Natural born drummer. There we go.
How do you tune that?
We take something like this piece of metal or a hammer or stone, and we knock the pegs in, and that tightens. And then to loosen them, there's a different technique, which is a bit more complicated. And then that way we can change the pitch. So in fact, when we play, we're creating melodies between the drums, not only rhythms. So you might have 2 or 3 drums that are tuned differently, and then they create kind of a tune amongst themselves. Okay. So the instrument that Dave is holding over here, this is sort of this is our foundation. This is a type of bell that you find in a lot of traditions, from Cuban music to Brazilian music to African music, and it gives us a timeline, which everything else is based on. So whether it's the song, the dancing, or the drumming, it's all based on.
Is that the origin of the cowbell?
Maybe. I don't know if you'd see a cow wearing this thing around its neck, but it's definitely similar sonically. Yeah. Okay. More cowbell, right? Right. So, and then we have this one. This is a type of shikari or maraca. You want to shake that? Give it a little. There we go. Yeah. Made from a gourd, and these are common all over the world, as you know.
Love those when I was a kid.
Yeah. There you go. Well, we're all kids still, right? Yeah. So let's play some music. We're gonna play we're gonna start with some folk music. This is actually music from Ghana. We didn't create this. The rhythm that you're gonna play, when you strike the drum, just like you're doing, keep your fingers together. Okay, and there's 2 ways to hit it. There's one which is we call the open sound near the edge, like you were playing before. Yeah, you can hit it nice and hard. There you go. And the other one is in the center with a flat hand. That's more of the bass. Yeah, good. You got it. So we're going to combine these two to play a rhythm, and then these guys are going to join in, and we'll see where this takes us. Okay.
Somebody showed me this one, so I sort of.
So you're already an expert. I told you. Okay. So the rhythm goes like this. We play 3 tones like this. Right, left, right. And then we follow it with a bass tone with our right hand. So. Good. And every other time, we can double up the bass like this. Sure, why not? Either 1 or 2 hands. You take it. Bass. That's it. Now I'm going to change rhythms on you. You keep that one going. That's right. Add some flute into this now. How you doing? have it. Right on. Now, usually that music could go on for like an hour, and we would sing, and people would dance, and it's a total party music. So we thought we'd keep it a little bit short, just in case your hands were getting tired. Wasn't sure.
Okay, so great. Should we stay here? Should we go back there, and should we just chat about stuff?
Let's chat. Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that was great. So these are djembes, right?
They're not djembes. They're very different than djembes. Yeah, but that's also music that originated in West Africa, so it's from a similar area.
So. No, that was great. So
Thank you for that experience. That was amazing.
You have fun?
Yeah.
It was amazing. It's almost, I can see how when you go on and on, it can become trance-like.
Yeah, totally. And there's a lot of specific rhythms and musics that are for trance. And West Africa is where I believe that tradition came from.
Wow.
Because I noticed, I know that there's a lot of drum circles in Toronto. A lot of people go to drum circles in parks or in the winter in different clubs and stuff like that.
Totally.
And it's a real cultural phenomenon. And I've always really kind of wondered what I'm not personally attracted to that, but I know a lot of people are. And there's got to be something, you guys must have some insight into what people are getting out of that.
Well, the drum circle experience, I think, is maybe a little different than what we do, because in the drum circles, it's about being part of something, like a community of people, and it's about expressing yourself in whatever way fits. With our music, we're playing very specific parts and very specific melodies, and it's arranged music. It's very finite.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, there's improvisation within that, but it's not as free form as, say, a drum circle. But with the drum circles, I think it's more about a gathering that everybody can be part of. It's participatory more than being a performer and an audience. So anybody who shows up can find a way to fit into it.
It feels like your music is tribal. With some of the
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess. Okay. So I guess what I mean by that is just it feels like it's to me. I do feel that community feel with that music, and I do feel that connection. Even though I was obviously playing, but if I were watching, I would still feel that connection. But the lyrics or the words, are they actual words? Are they sounds? Are they words to a specific type of community?
Well, what we just demonstrated, we didn't actually sing any real text. That was we were just using our voices.
Okay.
Yeah. But in our music, in this music, there's a lot of text based. There's a lot of songs, a lot of folk songs.
So you actually say words that we would understand.
Well, you might not understand, but people from that community would, because they're from a dialect of a particular language or different languages.
So this is when you're performing, say, traditional West African folk music or whatever.
Exactly. Okay. There's lots of singing that is text based, and there's sometimes now they do include English. And we could do a little song like that if you like. But most of our music, the drumhand music, it's original, and it doesn't draw on the traditional music in that way. We write our own lyrics, we use our voices in different ways. So
I
think you mentioned you were going to play a video later on.
We have that one. I mentioned it to you. The Long Road. Yeah.
So that one you'll hear us singing in English text that we wrote.
And that's one of your original songs, just based on the instrumentation and the
slightly different instruments.
Yeah.
Than we have right with us.
Okay.
We didn't bring our entire repertoire in.
Okay, well, you have a trumpet player, and you've got Marcus playing different woodwind instruments too. So that is the instrumentation not entirely traditional then that you do?
Not at all. We really mix different instruments.
Yeah.
Steve plays an instrument called the berimbau, which is a Brazilian instrument, and Marcus plays a whole bunch of different saxophones, which of course are not from the same community as these drums. And then we also have some other drums that we use frequently on stage. So we sort of brought a taste from our arsenal of instruments.
No, that's great. Now, okay, so we probably have time for one more live song, just so you know, so you can kind of figure out what you want to play. But I just want to say, you guys are going on a tour. You just released this album, right? It's called Cheer on the Sun.
Yep.
And is this your second?
Third,
because I know you had the other one, the Traveling
Scheme.
Yeah. And what would Was that your second?
That was the second. Yeah.
Okay. And you're going on a pretty extensive cross-Canada tour this year, which has got to be exciting.
Yeah, we have a few dates over the next couple months until I guess the starting point is the Toronto Jazz Festival. We're playing part of the Distillery Series the end of June, and then we go to London, Ontario for Sunfest, which is a big sort of world music festival, and that's our springboard to get us start heading west. We go all the way out to the island,
Nice.
That's fabulous.
yeah, for the month of July.
I noticed you're playing Westport, Ontario as well.
Yeah. It'll be our second time.
Yeah.
You know Westport.
I used to have a girlfriend in Westport.
We'll call her up.
That's why it's called Westport.
Come out to the show. It's
Are
a
you
great
still in
venue.
touch with her, Hugh?
No, sadly. Yeah. Wow, that's a great little town in eastern Ontario.
Fantastic.
Right?
It's a
Good
great
memories.
venue. Really good venue.
Yeah.
Cove.
Okay. So, have you been touring? Have you toured the country before?
Only eastward.
Okay.
We've gone as far as Halifax. We've been out east twice, and we played Quebec and all over Ontario quite a bit, but we haven't gone farther west than Sudbury, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's got to be a lot of fun. You mentioned you're all piling in the van and going across the country. So that's
I bet you'd
guys
be
in a
very
van with our
well.
drums.
Yeah, and I think you'd be really well received out west.
I hope so.
especially in BC.
Yeah, exactly.
that kind of
Exactly what I was. They go for that kind of stuff.
You know
Whatever
what I'm
that
talking
is.
about. Okay. Now, is there I know obviously you all have an interest in this music, but is there any kind of a purpose or a mission to the band beyond that?
Our music is highly interactive. We do festival events, we do street parties, we do parades, we do children's school concerts.
Oh,
we just came off of a
nice.
tour of
Nice.
kids concerts.
Oh, wow.
In the sort of Eastern Ontario region. We have a lot of elements in our show where we encourage the audience to be involved. It can be from clapping to singing along to actually getting up and moving a little bit. I mean, we often play for dances. So our music is not really, although some of our songs do have gentle leanings towards a social theme or socio-political theme, most of our music is meant to engage people,
Yeah.
get them involved.
But I guess not wedding parties, huh? Not weddings.
Well, we actually, not yet, but we have done, we've been asked for some similar things. In
Wow,
fact, we might
nice.
crash a wedding this summer.
Interesting. You should videotape that and put that on YouTube.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Well, I would think there might be some couples that really want to have this kind of
Well, the
music
wedding is actually our trumpet player, Rebecca.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting married, and
Definitely
we
need to crash that.
show up.
Keep it a secret.
Well, she invited us, actually, so it's not really crashing.
Oh, that kind of.
But
Okay.
anyway.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear another
Yes.
Okay. We'll play another
piece.
song. We're going to change our instrumentation a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Play. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Well, Sandra, isn't this
That was really interesting.
yeah.
Those are huge drums. The really cool thing about percussion is you don't have to hook everything up like you do with like electric basses and all that stuff,
We
right?
gotta make it sometimes.
Wow.
Ready for us?
Yes.
Okay. This is called Be Quick.
Whoa.
Whoa, very nice.
That was good.
Oh my God, that looks like so much fun. I want to grab that drum and just play it.
You can grab it. Grab it.
No, I didn't really.
Come on, give it a whack or two. Come on. Yeah, let's
Give it a whack.
Aim for the center. Okay. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I am left-handed.
Okay, so I should do that with my right hand then if I'm right-handed.
Anything that makes you feel comfortable.
There you go.
Now, do you do the side too?
Sometimes.
Do you do different parts of it? Is this what you do in the kids' classes?
I'll say yes.
Okay, I don't think we're
You don't need us anymore. We're out of here. You guys can carry the show.
Thank you guys. This is so much fun. I could so get into this, and it could be so intense. I could just see this.
You can always come out to the show. Come
Wow,
and
it
dance.
sounds amazing. When is your next show?
Yeah, when's the
here,
next show?
though?
Is there a show in Toronto that you're?
We're doing a couple of outdoor things, like now that it's summer, we're playing
Yes.
a party in Riverdale on June 1st. But our next big show is the Toronto Jazz Festival,
Which is?
Right.
June 28th
Okay.
at the Distillery, and you can just go to the website, our website, drumhand.ca, or you can look it up on Toronto Jazz Festival website.
Great. So do you just have the one performance, just the one date, June 28th?
Yeah, it's we do like three sets in the evening, and I don't actually know if it's an outdoor format or yet. I'm not
But
sure.
it's over at the Distillery, so you just go over there,
You'll
walk
find it.
around.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure they'll hear you someplace.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
And then we'll be playing. We play in Toronto every couple months.
Yeah, great. Well, listen, great to meet you guys. Well, I
Thank
know
you,
we've met
guys.
some of you before, been on the show, but great to do this and
It's our pleasure.
have a lot of fun on that cross Canada tour. It sounds
Yeah,
like
good luck.
lots of fun.
Sounds amazing. Thank you.
Drumhand.ca, and I guess there's the links there for this CD and all the other stuff.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
And actually, we got the video here now from the long road that you did in Hamilton at the Pearl Company, I think. So let's watch this now. We're going to come back, I don't know, maybe with Josh next as Liquid Lunch continues.
What fear do we have to clear?
Long road, together with our breaking the code. Long road, so we can share the seeds that we've sown. can clearly see the big zone. The long road will find a way to lighten the load.
All right now.
Take the long road, take the long, long road.
The long road.
The long, long road.
The long road.
The long, long road.
Let's take that road.
The long,
Let's
long road.
take that road.
Take the long,
Let's
long
take
road.
that road.
Take the long, long road.
Here on the show.
Oh, they almost caught me beating you up.
Okay, now we're on the show.
Okay, now we're on the show. Good, so they missed me beating you up.
You know, I know they caught it on camera, but they'll probably take it out in editing.
That drum brought out my aggression.
Oh, okay. There's the camera over there. See?
Yes, there's
you
the
can point
camera.
right at it.
Yes.
Okay, we are here on the show,
Yes.
and we got Joshua Townsend joining us.
Hey, Josh.
Josh, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me. I really like what you guys did with the space.
Do you like it?
I
With
don't know how you
the
do
little
it.
windows. It's you know.
What a great new vibe, though, eh?
Yeah, it's great. Love the energy here.
So the last time you were here, Josh, we steered you wrong, right? We
sure
got
did.
we got talking about some other topic, but today we're gonna talk about the Clear Fear Forever process. Now, this is something you developed, right?
Yeah, actually, I was going through my college years and I was experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of anger, frustration. And I was just like, what the hell's going on with my life? And then I was like, maybe it's not just my life, maybe it's me. And I kind of went within, figured out, I've got a lot of fears and stuff. I'd like to deal with that. And I went looking, and I found some other work by a man by the name of Morty Lefko.
Yeah.
And he wrote how to deal with it, and then I learned it, and then I realized, and all the best to him, he's at the roots of my process, but I was like, we can cut out some of this, and let's just start putting some new stuff in. And I kept innovating it and doing it on myself, and then I just started doing it on others and saw improvements in their life, and so I let go of.
Don't worry about it. It's just the phone, Josh.
That's just the angels. It's the angels singing, saying, "Keep going."
We are a busy studio here. The phone is ringing constantly. Press the button. The line 1 or line 2, depending on which one is ringing. Okay. It's a busy studio, Josh.
I know.
That's the vibe.
Got to pay for these window panes.
Somehow.
Yeah. So,
anyways, the thing about fears are just beliefs that we create. So say you're a child and you experience any sort of trauma, you may form a definition from it, like, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not important. And this is done subconsciously, and it can actually carry on throughout your entire life.
this is the kind of thing like we're parents and they're just trying to deal with their kids, but they don't know it. But they could be like instilling their kids with all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. And for all of you kids, which was all of us at one point, I'm sure our parents did try their best. They didn't know, but you know, it could be as simple as parents in the kitchen, like, and the child's like, "Hey, mom, look at this," or like, "Go away, I'm busy," because they're preparing food. Even something like that.
Yeah.
A kid could form subconscious beliefs, and these carry on throughout all of life.
Yes.
And they can develop into other things that we don't even know. They can affect our relationships, our careers, our well-being, our health.
I know.
Pretty much anything.
Isn't that amazing? And they say that it's the first 8 years of your life that actually form the rest of your life in terms of your belief system.
Wow.
6.
6? 6
According
years?
to Anne-Marie.
And
Okay.
She's
Well,
been through years of therapy, and that's
6.
where she got
Okay.
it.
Well, you know what? That's okay. Well, Bruce Lipton is the one who said 8, up to 8. So I don't know.
Well, okay.
I
Anyway.
think the beginning of life's a big factor, but you can actually still form many fears and beliefs later in life, whether you're in it's probably pretty common in love relationships.
Yes.
Where you're around the same character so much, the workplace. You two have been working together forever.
Yeah. Well, seems like that.
I don't know.
Seems like that.
Yes.
Exaggeration. And workplace, careers, just your social life, your friends, if you have
Yes.
the same social
Yes.
group.
Yes.
Because the thing is, if you get the same feedback all the time, you may form a belief around that.
So how do you know you have a problem? Well, how did you discover that? How did you realize that?
I don't want to call it a problem because
Okay.
some people don't really like problems, more something we can grow from and learn
Okay.
from.
Yeah.
Pretty much the best indicator you have a fear, a limiting, or a negative belief is if you have any negative emotions, if you feel any negativity within yourself whatsoever. This can be anger, sadness, frustration, anxiety. Any of these feelings point to beliefs you have within.
So if you're not feeling good about something, in other words.
Yeah, totally.
Like, can you give us an example? I mean, you mentioned you were having some issues, whatever, and then you went inside, you looked inside, and you found that there was fears there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want you to get too personal with us if you don't want to, but just an example for people that, because some people may go, "Oh, I don't have any fears," but their life is totally dysfunctional. Like,
Well,
right?
it's planet Earth, so it's a little crazy here at times. Yeah, I'll try to think of an example. Okay, this was actually a big one, and I think it's actually pretty common, and people may not be aware of it. I used to hold the belief that I'm not lovable. And I had parents, at times they'd say, "I love you," and all this other stuff. But as a child, I remember all the hard times. And in those hard times, there might be disagreements, arguments. And as a child, you may form the belief I'm not lovable. And I didn't know it, but that stuck with me into my 20s, my early 20s. And if you have a belief like that, your behavior can be totally changed when you're interacting with your peers, friends, lovers, any sort of thing. You subconsciously may have this belief, and it can either steer you away from things, or as you're going through things you enjoy, you may feel some tenseness. This is really common, actually. A lot of people might feel tenseness in their throat, their chest, or their stomach at times when an issue is coming up that they haven't yet resolved.
So okay, that's interesting. So, and that makes sense that you pay attention to what your body's telling you, which a lot of people are so far removed from even knowing what paying attention to your body means, right?
Well, or they pay attention by saying, "Oh, I have a sore stomach; it must be indigestion. I'll take a Tums," or so they'll medicate themselves, thinking that it's, something a Band-Aid approach, I guess, right?
Pain is so important for us to heal and grow and find our joy. Say you were to break your leg, if you just dumped a whole bunch of painkillers so you can't feel your leg and kept walking on your leg, you put yourself at the risk of never being able to walk again. The same is with our emotional issues, our fears, our anxieties, our anger, hatred, our stress. If we ignore the pain within our body about this stuff, we keep walking on this pain, it can just accumulate. We can even grow more fears, and it can manifest into a life which is completely dysfunctional.
And this is probably where most addictions come from, right? People are just masking their pain.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I'll give my personal experience. I used to be an alcoholic. I had a lot of pain, and I wanted to go somewhere in life. But every time I wanted to go somewhere in life, it would trigger the pain because I had all these beliefs I haven't resolved. So I'm like, I want to do this. Oh, that hurts. I want to get drunk tonight. Yeah. Go get wasted.
That it makes the hurt go away.
It was numb, and still have some bad trips with that, but it was numbing, and that was taking me away from my pain because I thought life was painful. I didn't realize that I just had some pain within me that could heal. So I thought life was painful. That wasn't the case. I just hadn't grown out of it yet.
Okay, so, all right, so let's talk about the process a little bit. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, sure. What I do is, as I said, a good indicator that you have any fears or limiting negative beliefs is if you have any internal issues and pain. So what I like to do is ask the client, where are you experiencing any pain? Which part of your life? Your career, your love life, your sex life, finances, or just anything else in general. And then when I find out where they're not feeling so hot, what I do is I just ask them to tell me an event. Like, where have you been experiencing pain? What's the actual event? And then what I do from that is I pick out a belief they may have. And a way you can do this yourself is when something comes up and it just feels negative, ask yourself, what do I believe that makes this bad? What do I believe that makes this bad? And this can start to look within and find out what fear or belief you might have. And then what you can do is, what do I believe that makes that bad? And you keep asking that question. So what do I believe that makes this bad? What do I believe that makes that bad? What do I believe that makes that bad? And you'll start picking beliefs and definitions out of your mind. And then what I do with a client, I get them to look back as far as they can remember to where that belief, that definition, looked and felt true. And all we do through talking and questions is show the mind that the definition that they created wasn't the absolute truth, that there was other possibilities. Like, say a child kept getting ignored by his parents in the kitchen and they formed the belief, I'm not important. You could say, you could show the mind that, hey, maybe it's not you're not important. Maybe your parents were just busy putting food on the table. Maybe if there was other people around, they'd pay more attention to you. And when you show them all these different possibilities, the mind will let go of that fear, that definition. And then what I do is I go through a visualization process, because when we carry this baggage for so long, our heart can close up. And this may not be completely scientific, but it feels real.
And that's all that counts, actually.
Yeah. And science is always developing anyways. But, and then I go through a visualization where they imagine the alternative, because no longer does this person think they're not important. They realize that was a false belief. So I get them to imagine a scenario where they are important. And then often you can feel a lot of energy come through and your heart lighten up a little, and a smile typically goes on their face yeah, from that release.
You know, it kind of reminds me of, and not specific, anyway, kind of reminds me of that Byron Katie stuff.
Yeah, that was actually sounding like that to me, too. She asked these 4 questions. Is it true?
Yeah.
Do you know it's true?
Yeah,
and then you turn it around.
I am
or something.
familiar. That
something
is,
like that.
yeah, I think I saw that. It was in a little PDF sheet, or does she probably asked that?
Well, she's got a book. She's got a book out there too.
Yeah, I looked at that. It's very similar. Although
she calls it the inquiry. She calls it an inquiry, which is similar to what you do, but I guess you custom yours.
I find like the questions, what makes this bad? They can help you in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But if you don't go back and find out where it really possibly developed, you'll often still carry it. Like, you might get through that scenario a little bit easier, but when you go back and do the work to truly release where the trauma formed, then you don't need to ask those questions anymore, because you've let that issue go.
You've dealt with the core issue. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, that makes sense.
Now, what about, okay, so I can see people have beliefs based on stuff that they remember, right? So if we're going back, right, and you can go back to what you remember, but what if you can't remember? Or what if it's something, and I don't even know if this is possible, but if something has been, a belief has been put there by subconsciously, or through I don't know. Like I imagine, like they say when you're in surgery, maybe you're in surgery or something like that, and the surgeon says something, and you're out, but you take it in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
right?
interesting.
Well, the good news is I've worked with people who have terrible memory, and it still works. All you need to do is go back as far as you can to where it really felt true. That may not be where you actually formed or picked up the belief, but if you have any memory where it felt very true, that strong feeling is a good spot where you can do the work. So say something happened to you when you're 7, but you only remember everything after you're 20. You just go to where that belief felt true in your 20s, and you can do the work there, and it'll still be as effective. I like to go back as far as they can remember, because that's often closer to the root of the cause. But it still works later in life, too. And even if, and another thing, if you picked up a belief out of, say you were surgically implanted with a belief, anywhere in your life where it feels true is a ground where you can heal that belief regardless. You don't need to go back to the surgeon if that were possible.
So you can really start with where the pain points are
Exactly.
in your life, right?
The pain is the arrow.
So, and how many sessions does a person require, or before they will start to notice something?
Some have felt you feel a change right after the session. Most of my clients, after one session, feel a change. The interesting thing is, though, we may have many, many different beliefs and fears. So say you have an issue with changing. Well, one session might be able to fix that, but you may still have an issue, say, with being loved or self-worth and stuff. But often people feel the change right after one session, which is about an hour long.
Wow.
Now, have you ever encountered somebody that this didn't work for?
I had one encounter, although I like to state that I'm always improving the process because not every single person's the same. I find the more open and honest you are to the fact that you may have fears or beliefs that are limiting you, the better the process will work. And this was a while back. The process wasn't as developed as it was now, but I met a man, and when we were testing for beliefs, he couldn't. It was almost like he was out of his body in a sense. It's like, does that feel true? And it's like, I don't know, maybe. Very cerebral. And so something I'm developing is working on getting people in their body and just feeling their body first. That way they're in their body, they can accept that pain's okay. And also showing and teaching them that it's okay to have fears. I think it's a big part of social conditioning that if you have any fears, you might be left behind by your peers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that because, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of people don't even know how to feel their body, right? So,
Yeah.
So that sounds like a worthwhile component to
or
the
feel
process.
their emotions. I mean, it's you can feel if you've hurt your knee or banged up your knee. That's everybody's okay with that, but yet to feel emotions is almost taboo.
Yeah. I'd like to also state, though, I've had clients who it seemed like it wasn't working, but then obviously by the end we were able to turn it around, get it working, get them in tune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, of course I have questions, Sandra.
Okay.
Well, I was asking that because I heard, I don't know where I heard it from, but that certain people are just immune to any kind of therapy. And I suspect I may be one of those people.
Well,
You know what? I don't know. I've seen some improvement in you.
No, Sandra.
No?
There's been no improvement.
Oh, okay. Wow.
well, it's also a big part for a therapist to understand each client, patient, understand their point of view and their experiences. Because like I said, I found each individual to be slightly different. I find some characters are very intellectual. Some are more like, I just feel it, man.
I think those people we would say are on a trip.
What kind of trip, Sandra?
Well, a very happy one. A happy trip.
But I was exaggerating a bit, but those are the extremes. But
I wasn't.
and as for immune, I think with further understanding, we could reach more and more people. I can't give an absolute and say that everyone that one method would work for, but I think as methods improve, more and people could be understood and reached. And a big part of it is, I think, wanting to change yourself, because if you don't want to change at the core of you, therapy might not be for you.
Right, because there's a payoff. I think some people get a payoff for whatever their pain is, right? And even subconsciously, that's what they
justify it.
Well, not that they're justifying it, but even that's their payoff.
What do you mean by payoff?
For their dysfunctional life.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Right? Because they get the attention?
Okay. Or something like that.
Well, I was actually talking with a friend of mine, Tom Glaude, the other day, and we were talking about victim mentalities. Say you're a child and you get sick, and then your mom gives you some loving attention to help you heal.
Yes.
And say that's the only time she really gives you that attention. Your mind might form the belief, if I'm sick, I'll receive love. Yeah. So if you don't feel whole on yourself, you may act in ways to sort of act sick, to be a victim, to get love. So if you go to a therapist to go fix that, you might fear subconsciously that if you're not sick, you won't get any more love.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So would that qualify? Would that be part of your issue, Hugh?
What? No.
No.
Not that one. No. But thanks for asking.
always there. No, I think you have to be willing, and I think it's like any kind of alcoholic those 12-step process. If you go in, I mean, part of the process is admitting that you have a problem, but you can't go for somebody else. You can't go because your partner wants you to go, and they're threatening to leave you unless you go. That's not going to resolve the issue. You have to really want to, at your core, to change, right? You can't do it for anybody else. So I think it's about being willing. If anybody's willing, they could probably do it.
Are you willing to be right about yourself, or more willing to be happy?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. So let's talk about some of the benefits that people experience when they go through the process.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Often a feeling of being lighter, just more lighthearted, more playful, more energy. Like in my personal experience, extremes amounts of energy. Say you had a fear that you're not good enough, and every time one gives you a project, you're probably expelling a lot of negative energy because you think you're not good enough to do this. But if you don't have those beliefs, you're just doing it without the expulsion of negative energy. So tons of energy. Some people I've worked with, they claim to just be exercising a lot more. Happiness, joy, much more loving.
And then they attract better relationships too, right?
Oh, yeah. People I've worked with used to seem to always attract people that were out to ridicule them, hate them, try to kill them, whatever, like just very negative extremes. And then after clearing their own fears, they were able to manifest a life that was just more positive. The friends they were attracting in were all smiles, giggles, and love, and things started to blossom, better relationships, improved love lives with spouses and stuff like that.
And that can affect even, sorry, Hugh, I think you're going to say something. I was going to say, okay, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say that can affect your jobs too, because you can, the work environment and possibly even attracting a raise or a promotion because you're now putting out that positive vibe, right?
Yeah, totally. Some might say like attracts like, and if that's true, if you're in a better mood, you may just attract better things. I can't guarantee you'll get a raise, but so don't come at me. But yeah, people I've worked with just said a lot of things improved. People were improving in their crafts more. They were more open to just develop their skills and move in the direction they wanted, whether it be a career, volunteer work, or arts, anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, no, what's the process? Do people come and see you, or how does it work?
Well, what you can do is book an appointment with me online at clearfearforever.com. And you can either come out to my place and I'll talk to you over the phone about that, or I can even come meet you. Or what I do with some clients, because some of my clients aren't here in Canada, is just work online through the software Skype. It's free software, and we just talk on a webcam and a mic. So all you need is a computer, a webcam, and a mic, and we can do that.
Like, do you have to see the person, or can you do it just over the phone, say?
I do it with seeing them, because you can pick up more from a person when you see what they're doing, how they're reacting, more than just their voice,
Okay.
for sure.
So, and we've got a little video we're going to show a couple minutes long. To
Shows you in action?
I don't know if it shows you in action,
Do you have
but it's
two videos by your chance?
the shorter one didn't come through for some reason.
Okay, great. I'm not sure which video we're watching, but I'm looking forward to it.
So, but anyway, people can find out more at clearfearforever.com, right,
Yeah,
Josh?
definitely.
Okay, great to do this, and maybe.
Oh, just quickly, the event.
Oh yeah, what event?
You're doing an event in High Park?
Yeah, on June 2nd, I'm doing an event. It's called Clear Fear Forever, and Sunshine Healing present a day in High Park. It's going to be just a day about healing, trauma, that stuff. It's a little metaphysical, so it may appeal to some of you spiritualists and anyone who wants to explore new paradigms about healing. And I also just want to quickly get it in. I have a fearlessness program.
Okay.
This is a program developed to help people drop any fear, any trauma, any negative limiting belief on their own very quickly and effectively. It's running at $3,000 Canadian, but installment payments are option. If you can do $50 a week, we can work with that. It's a program so you, at any time you have negativity come up, you can release your own traumas and your fears almost instantly on your own.
Awesome.
Gosh.
Okay.
It's totally awesome. Thanks for doing this today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Good luck on it, on everything.
Thank you.
So here's the Clear Fear the video, and we're going to come back with Misty.
Yes.
Okay.
The
Liquid Lunch
marvelous
continues.
Misty.
Recently, I had the honor of doing what's called a Clear Fear Forever. At the time of the process, I had no idea that I had any fears or limiting beliefs. But when I had the honor of having a session done with Joshua Townsend, he helped bring those fears and limiting beliefs that I didn't know I had to the surface. And one by one, those beliefs were dropping left and right. And after that, it felt more like a domino effect, one after another. Clear Fear Forever, personally, has changed my life in more ways than one. I'm a lot happier, more outgoing, not as angry with others that I like before. I would highly recommend the Clear Fear Forever program for anyone interested in a life-changing journey. So, but I'm going to walk through it here, walk through each step with you and go over what I went through. Before the Clear Fear Forever, life, to me anyways, was narrow, full of rage, negativity, just all the not so pleasant stuff. And it took me 13 plus years to get to where I am, thanks to Joshua Townsend. He is the real deal when it comes to Clear Fear Forever and helping people get past those fears and limiting beliefs. So personally, I would like to say thank you, and you rock.
Okay, we're back here on the show, and we have Misty here. Misty,
Hello
welcome to the
again,
show.
Misty.
Thank you.
And great to have you here on the show. And so what are we talking about? Because Sandra didn't tell me anything. She just surprised on the show today and just brought this mystery guest in.
Well, it's funny that your name is Misty. We can call her Misty Guest or Mystery Guest. Misty is someone I ran into last night, actually, so thank you for being so accommodating.
What were you doing last night?
Well, we had one of the sessions, and Misty showed up, courtesy of Asha, And so, you know, as we have the circle, any new people, we say, hey, you know, introduce yourself kind of thing. And so Misty did, and she talked about living a life predominantly without money, and how she's basically manifested, you just, when you fully trust in the universe, how you're always given everything you ever need. And so she gave us story after miracle, and it was so interesting. And I thought, this is a person that is moving into, I believe, where we are going. And so I thought, wow, she'd be an amazing guest to have on the show.
Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm, well, somebody said to name myself as a spiritual healer, because I have so many different things I do that it's spiritual healer basically encompasses everything.
I just think you live spiritually.
Yes,
really.
I live spiritually. It's not my religion. It's not my whatever. It's not my job. It's who I am. You know, it's like my own belief. I've been living basically through the universe for quite a few years. I've had my moments, you know, where sometimes you get pulled back into the so-called normal world, you know, because people tell you, you can't live that way. It can't be done. No, you need a normal job, or you need to charge for your services.
So Misty, let's talk a little bit about that, because when we talked last night, you talked about having a full-time job. You were living as a waitress.
Yes.
You were working as a waitress.
A long time ago, yes.
And so how many years ago was that?
Ooh, I quit that in, I think it was 2001 or 2002.
Okay, so over 10 years.
Yeah.
So what was the turning point for you?
Basically, I work with spirit, and I had to learn to trust that these are my spirits speaking, not just my mind. And I was told that this is no longer my path. And I loved waitressing. For me, it was a way of helping people, because I always loved helping people. I'd give up something in Montreal to hitchhike across the country with my son and a backpack, and, you know, it's like just to go help people. So this was a way of my helping people. I always had my customers start telling me their problems and stuff like that. So it's like something I've always done.
Okay.
And one day I was told, it's like, you'll be doing something completely different in the same environment. And I was like, yeah, right, okay, I'm going to be a cook. I don't think so, you know. And it started out with my doing tarot readings or oracle readings in a place in Winnipeg that was very famous for doing that.
Okay.
So it's the same environment. It's a restaurant, but doing something totally different.
Okay.
Better than being a cook, for sure.
Yeah. So from there, it started out with the trusting, you know, trusting that there's something more out there, because I kept thinking it's my mind. I'm going crazy, because I was sent to see psychiatrists when I was 9 years old for being different, you know.
Okay.
I'm finding out all the secrets of the family now, that this runs in a family further back. So it's like, oh, I'm not so crazy. And I ended up at some point just giving everything up and living in a shed, because I felt this is where I needed to be.
Now, what gave you the courage to do that? Can you
It's kind of facing fear, like the young man was talking about before, about fear. I find everything in life, how we're controlled is through fear. You can't do that or else. Pretty much most of my life, I tried to do everything what other people wanted, to be accepted. When I discovered that this isn't who I am, this is keeping me down, this is not what I'm supposed to do, so I just kind of faced my fear. It's not to say you'll never have fear, because you'll always have society telling you, oh, you can't do that, you're wrong, you have to be normal, you know. But it's facing your fears and go ahead and do it.
So when you moved to this shed, you just basically got rid of all your possessions?
Yes, I had basically one suitcase of things, and because I've been giving things away all my life anyways. You know? It's like somebody would come for a reading, and I picked up that they need to study crystals because it has to do with them, and I had this like $35 crystal book, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is for you. You know, it's like, and they would be surprised, like, oh, but like the reading is less than the book. You know, this is what they're saying. It's not mine. It's yours. There you go. You know. So the shed experience was basically a lesson in trusting my intuition, that this is my intuition, and it's okay to be different. And I had people offering me places in their homes, and I kept saying, no, sorry. It's like something is telling me I need to be here. So I stayed there for 1 year and 3 months.
Now, where was the shed?
In Winnipeg.
That's a cold shed in the winter.
Oh, yeah. I insulated 3 walls myself. I had a tiny little heater that my mom sent me from Montreal. Yeah. And there's only one night I needed to go to the Salvation Army. It was when it was -51.
Oh, my Well, that's Winnipeg for you. I mean, that's the worst city you could possibly pick to live in a shed.
Okay, so wow, so you really developed a thick skin for that. But now, how did you feed yourself? How did you function? How did you buy deodorant, for instance,
I
or
live
shampoo?
through donations.
Okay.
So a lot of times the donations is coming through food or places to stay. I just came back from 4 years in Egypt, and how I went to Egypt actually was through Facebook. People saying, we need you here. And this was a big fear I had to face. It's like, I'm going to a whole different country, way at the other side of the world, on a one-way plane ticket with $25 in my pocket, not knowing if these people are for real or they'll show up at the airport, and no way of coming back to Canada. And I'm there like, I was on a plane, it's like, oh my God, what am I doing? I have to be crazy. And then I remembered the shed. I was like, oh, it's Egypt, there's no snow. Okay, so I have to sleep in the desert.
You won't have to worry about a heater.
Yeah, exactly. So if I have to sleep in the desert, whatever. But like, just warning to everybody, it does get very cold in winter in the desert at night.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But the woman showed up and everything was fine because I faced the fear and I did go. And then I had like amazing and incredible and empowering experiences.
So you had $25 in your pocket.
Yep.
And so how did you manage out there?
I stayed at a friend because she invited me to go. She said I was needed. I never found out why I was needed because people kept saying, we need you, come here. And I never really found out why. It's something to do with energy. During the revolution, when I was there, people were thanking me for being there. And I did nothing but sit in the center with no bed, no nothing, because I went in to give a lecture, and it's the day the revolution started, so it's like, oh, nobody's here. You know, so I just sat there and meditated and sent love and peace to Egypt, and there you go. You know, and people thanked me after for being there, says, but I didn't do anything. So they said it gave them hope because I didn't evacuate. I didn't just up and run like a lot of people would do.
So speaking of that, you had mentioned last night the Canadian government and income taxes. You haven't filed income taxes for 5 years now?
About 5 years, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So what is all that about? And they also, the Canadian government didn't help you to come back during that revolution,
exactly.
Right?
They wanted me to evacuate to Europe at the cost of my repaying them $400, even if it's so much whatever, but I had to sign a paper with the promise to repay. And they would drop me in Europe. They wouldn't bring me back to Canada. And I told them, I said, okay, but I don't even have 25 cents to make a phone call. In the countries you're saying you'll drop me in, I have no Facebook friends, absolutely no place to sleep. So if I'm going to repay you this money, can I not sign another paper that I'll repay you the rest and bring me back to Canada? Oh, no, we never did that. I said, thank you, I'll stay in Cairo and take my chances, you know. So that's what I did. I just stayed there, and I had no problems, and everything went fine there, you know.
And you still, to this day, don't pay income tax?
I don't. I've never paid income tax because even when I had a normal job, I received money. And when this happened, like 5 years ago, I decided to let go of control. How do people control you? Through money, you know. So I ended up, it says, I don't need your GST. I don't need your cost of living. The universe is helping me a lot more than the government ever did. I've lived through hell in Canada, and they've never helped me. So it's like, it's a trust in the universe, you know.
So can you talk a little bit more about that, about some of, you know, maybe some of the stories or you know, what gives you this trust? Obviously, you know, 10 years later, you're thriving, and you had mentioned last night, too, that you're so much more empowered.
Yes. To me, everyone needs to step into their own power. The way to do that, again, is facing your fear, you know. It doesn't mean you won't have fear, it's face it. I faced a policeman, and we were talking about that last night, a policeman I used to live in Abydos, which is where the most ancient temples of Egypt are. And I was outside of the temples, just at the beginning of the desert. And this policeman comes up to me and says, oh, no, madame, you can't do that. I had picked a stone off the desert. And you can't do that. I says, well, what do you mean I can't do that? It's a stone. He says, yes, but you can't do that. I says, well, why not? He says, because it's forbidden. I says, forbidden by who? And he said, the government, the president. I says, well, who owns the land? The president does. Oh, I'm sorry. And I put the stone back down. I said, I thought Allah owned the land, but if you say the president does, who am I to say the difference? He says, who? I said, Allah. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. God, the universe. He goes, oh, no. Allah owned the land. I says, okay, Allah owns the land. Thank you. Allah told me I can take this stone. And I walked away, and the policeman was sitting there like, And I've had a few different encounters like that with another one jokingly, which was a very strange joke to make. He says, like, you're a Canadian, but you're here in Egypt. I'm an Egyptian police. I can do whatever I want. I can shoot you now, and your government can't do anything.
Is that what he said to you?
Yeah, literally, word for word. And it's again in Abydos. And I was kind of shocked that it's a funny kind of joke, you know. And I said, go ahead. He says, well, what do you mean? I says, go ahead. I've seen the other side. There's more love on the other side. He says, what do you mean? I says, when you die, I've seen the world of spirit. It's beautiful there. It's full of love. You're doing me a favor. But I also believe in spirits. I'll come back and hunt the hell out of you. So go ahead, kill me. And he said, oh, no, sorry, Misty, I'm just joking. I says, yeah, but that's the funny thing. I'm not. You know?
Wow. So that's a good point too, Misty. I mean, part of the reason I think you are so fearless is because you know there's nothing to fear, because you know there's no death. Exactly. So what happened with you that made you, what kind of experience did you have where you did see that other side?
It was, well, during meditation at a center in Winnipeg in March 9th, 2004. I was meditating with a group. There was 24 people plus me. And I was not here anymore. They said I was a walk-in, because when I came back, I wasn't me. I was like different. I started speaking different. I was aware of being there and then not being there anymore. And when I came back, I had all this knowledge that was totally, it's like people are sitting there and they go like, wow, and asking me questions. And I'm there like, oh, this is what hands look like. So maybe I am a walk-in. I do remember being in the light and suddenly I'm here. And I'm there just like, why am I here?
So what was that light like, though?
It was beautiful. For me, it was love. It's pure love. There's all you can describe it. It's just pure love, you know. I didn't see spirits. I saw like wall-to-wall energy, just golden white and love. And it's a love that I've only encountered once in this world. So it made it very hard for the first couple of years to be here, you know. It's like trying to feel this, like to get other people to feel it, because I feel it every day of my life, but trying to get other people to feel it. And then it came to a point where it's like, I'm not trying anymore. I'm just going to be me, and whoever can feel it, there you go, you know. So this is kind of where I did have a lot of fears before and after that, because when I came back, they had to do a healing on me. The group did a healing on me because I had these fears of being here. Because it's almost like, I'm not quite sure. It's like kind of like I was my own higher self or my own guardian angel or something. So I knew about the world, but I was the first time experiencing it. And I had a fear of being here because I would be killed for how I live or how I speak or whatever. So I had to get past that. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, that's past lives. That's not this lifetime. They don't really kill you anymore for speaking out. Okay, you know. And that's when I really started this journey of living without things, and just kind of like, I have 2 small suitcases, and you know.
Now, do you have any regrets by making?
None whatsoever. I would never go back to being what we call normal, because to me this is more empowering. Years and years ago, I lived in a place called, well, like recently, I lived in a place called Siwa, which is the western desert of Egypt. Okay. And up until, I think it's about 30 years, I'm not quite sure, there was no roads to Siwa. People who went there, it would take them weeks by camel or by horse.
Right.
They did not know money. They all have vegetable gardens and fruits, and everybody has everything they need. It's an oasis, you know. The roads were built about 30 years ago, I think. Now there's tourism, and now they're starting to lose that, and it's about money. And there's a young man, I call him young man even though he's my age. There's a young man who started, oh, you need a job. You can't work like you're doing. I says, what are you talking about? I have a job. No. You don't make a salary, so you don't have a job. I says, it's not about a salary. Do I not have food? Do I not have a place to sleep? And he says, well, no, but it's a job is money. I says, no, a job is not money. I says, what does the money bring you? The money brings you food. The money brings you places to sleep. I have that. I says, 30 years ago, you guys had no money. How come you forgot that? He says, but you need a bus ticket back to Cairo, so how are you going to get it? I says, the universe will bring it. And there was a young man from Libya that was sitting there, and that night he called me, he says, Misty, I bought your bus ticket. I wanted you to know that because I want to be able to tell Saeed that I didn't give you the money, you got the bus ticket because that's what you asked for. So I want to prove to him, like, this is how they used to live and they're forgetting that, you know.
So basically, in a way, you just cut out the third party because when you said, you know, you need money for the shelter and the food, I already had that. So you're really taking... Now, somebody, and we talked about this last night, some people might say, okay, but wait a second, you may be living without money, but other people are paying your way. So really, you're not really living without money. Some people might think you're mooching.
Yeah. I have.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I have had people more in Egypt than in Canada.
And that's interesting. I would have thought it would have been the other way around.
Yeah, no, here I've had people accept me really openly, which was like amazing. You know, it's been amazing. In Egypt, it was very different. I've had people tell me I was living off the backs of others, and I would tell them, well, how do you figure that? Well, you're not paying anything, and they're feeding you, and they're housing you. I says, but I don't ask them to. I have never once asked anyone for a place to stay. There's times I would put on Facebook on my status, if anyone has a couch in exchange for either a reading or a healing or whatever, please let me know. I don't go up and knock on a door and, you know.
And you do give something in return.
Usually, yes. Like when there's the odd times recently where people didn't want anything, and that was kind of a shock to me. They said, no, we want you here just because. And I'm there like, but like, no, I'll give you a reading, or I'll give you a healing. No, it's okay. No, we want you here just because. We love your energies. And so that's been a surprise for me. That's only been since December.
So sometimes it's just about having your vibration there, which means you do nothing. You just are.
Yeah, and I felt guilty for a while of that because I'm used to going out of my way and helping. I'll do the dishes. I'll help you. No, you don't do anything. You're our guest. And I'm like, thank you. It's just learning to just accept also when someone's offering something.
Yes.
Because they also have their lessons to learn, and you know, sometimes it's about learning to receive also.
Yes. Yeah.
And because I've always gone out of my way, I went to Egypt because people said, help. You know?
Well, the very cool thing to me is you had said a lot of the things that Canada's so much more open than Egypt was, and I would have thought it would have been the other way around.
Yeah.
So Canada's been really set. How long have you been back here?
I've been back now for about 3 months.
And so far you've been really welcomed.
But I've been doing this for years. Is
it different now, though, Misty, when you're back in Canada now? Is it because you were in Canada, then you moved to Egypt, and now you're back? So when you were first...
I'm back temporarily.
Oh, no, where are you off to?
I'm going to India.
Okay. Yeah. And how are you getting there? Let me ask.
Universe, when it's time, the ticket comes.
And now how do you know it's India then? What if a ticket comes to China?
No, but I learned to trust my intuition and the messages I get. The first sign I saw when I got out of the airport in Montreal, I wasn't even out of the airport, like on the walkway to go downstairs. Here's a big billboard inside the building that says, welcome to mystical India. And I'm there like,
Okay, so you know what? I got to friend you on Facebook because when you're off to India, let me know and I'll mention it on the show. She's off to India.
All right.
It'll be interesting to see when that happens.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've had people tell me, no, you have to be careful. You're a woman alone. Because I had this in Egypt too. You're a woman alone, and at your age, you know, as if age matters, you need to be careful. I says, look, I've lived through hell in Canada. What more can happen? It's like
you make Canada sound like a war zone or something.
For me, it was. I've lived through 9 rapes in a 10-year period. Once in front of my 2.5-year-old daughter. I've lived through 9 car accidents. I've lived through somebody pushing me down 2 flights of steps. A father trying to kill me many times. And that's the thing is, I've lived. You know, I'm here. I have a brother who, in September, just laid down and died. You know.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, I had to start coming to terms with that I'm here for a purpose. Or else, because I've asked many, many times the universe, okay, I'm tired of being here. It's like, I want to go home now. I've seen the light. How come he gets to go home and I don't, you know?
Yes.
And I got very, very sick before my birthday. And it was from the energies, the whole thing of the people's expectations of 2012 and the ongoing demonstrations in Cairo and stuff like this. And I got physically sick for 2 days. And when I came out of it, I realized it's from the energies. I've been absorbing energies all my life. I've been absorbing other people's fears. And now it's time to let go, and it's okay. So he got to go home, but I've seen home. So my mission is now to help other people to know their home, you know.
Wow,
so, to
very
say
nice.
you don't have to be afraid. Why are you afraid of speaking out? It's like I've been threatened by policemen in Egypt. I've been threatened by policemen in Winnipeg. It's like, you know, and it's like, so it's now let go of the threats. They can threaten you, but
unless you buy into it.
Yeah.
So it's just an extension of the clearing the fear, basically, is what Joshua was talking about.
Yeah.
So, Misty, we don't have a lot of time left, but I'm just wondering if you can, like, you know, I mean, you've seen both sides,
Yes.
all sides. You know, what can you tell us about, you know, the energies in the world these days?
Great question.
There's lots of
What's going
you know,
on?
there's lots of people afraid of lots of things.
Yes.
But what can you tell us
I
that you
find the world shifting very, very quickly because there's more people waking up. I've had many people say, no, there's more wars now. There's more this, there's more that. But to me, there's not more. It was always there. It was hidden, you know.
It's just coming to the light
it's
now.
no longer hidden. It's surfacing. How do you clear things? By facing it and letting it go.
Beautiful.
I've learned to, like, I do feel people's negative energies because, like, when you're an empath and you're working with the spirit world and all, you do feel other people's stuff. So you need to ask yourself, is this mine? Why am I crying for nothing? Oh, it's not mine. It's someone else's. Okay, and then let it go. There will always, until the whole world is perfect, hopefully before I die, but I doubt it, you know, there will always be someone trying to stop you from doing what you're doing. But it's just face them and let them go, and then whoops, they don't exist anymore, you know.
And things will change a lot quicker.
Yeah, things change a lot because I've encountered people that I've known for a long time, and I've passed them, and it's like, who are you? They say, hi, remember you lived in my house. It's like, and I'm there like, I'm sorry, I don't remember you. And it's like the mask falls.
Wow.
You know, the mask falls. You don't recognize that energy anymore. They're a complete stranger. And I've read that in books years ago, and it's now I'm living it, you know. So
can we be encouraged about what's going on, or
I feel yes. You know, it's just if you stand in your own power, stop allowing governments and people and other people around you. It's not just governments. You know, I blame everything on governments, and I shouldn't. But it's like, stop allowing people to control you. You need to be powerful within yourself. We were told we didn't have the right to be powerful.
And how do you do that, Misty, very quickly?
It's by standing strong within yourself. Go with what you feel inside. If it speaks to your heart, it's real.
in spite of what your head may say,
Exactly.
don't do this.
The head will always tell you you're wrong. Your intuition is the very first thought that comes in, and then your mind almost immediately comes in and says, no, that's wrong. You know? But if you learn to grab the first thought and trust it and follow it, even though it doesn't make sense, it always makes sense in the end. You know?
Wow.
Okay. Well, this has been great to have this conversation. I wish we could continue it, but we got so many other great guests.
Thank you so
Coming
much
on
for
the show.
taking the
Thank you for having
time.
me.
And thanks you for fitting her in last minute.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Well, that's great. So, Misty, so like maybe there's somebody out there that has a ticket to India for you. Where can they get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook. My name is Misty Fehus, Fehus.
And Misty with an I or a Y?
Yeah, Misty.
Okay.
Fehus. And I also have I have a few emails, but like my main one is angelicalmessenger1@yahoo.com. Yeah.
Angelical Messenger 1, the numeral 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At Yahoo?
Yahoo.com or also at gmail.com. I have both.
Angelical Messenger 1.
I'm trying to write all that down and talk at the same time. It's very difficult.
I know, multitasking. I know, it's
I've
tough.
had people tell me, be careful when you go to India, you're a woman alone. I said, look, I lived in Egypt, and I didn't live like a tourist. I've lived in a tent at some points, too, in Egypt. So.
Wow.
Okay.
Should we be writing this down in a journal?
I'm writing a book, eventually.
Okay, this is fantastic, Missy. We'd love to have you back.
Somebody wants to donate a book for you to write. That would be great, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a little break. Actually, because we have Basit Qureshi coming on from Muslims for Peace right after this. But I have this little video about You Are Your Lungs. Let's watch that, and we'll come back with Basit as we continue here on Liquid Lunch.
Okay.
Okay, breathe in. You are the human form. You are the lungs. This is what it looks like when one person breathes. This is what two look like. But when the human race breathes together, it looks like this. We pull in ideas like oxygen, gathering them through inspiration. In our lungs, the molecules are taken by blood cells to move out into the body. But on the grand scale, the red blood cells are the communicators, the authors, the educators, the content producers that harness this idea and carry it into the mighty, rushing flow of information. And then, boom. Everyone can get it. Every cell can tap into it and use those ideas to power their processes. Whether they're creating a selective barrier to let helpful things in and keep harmful things out, or maintaining the structures we depend on for support. Or trying to perceive what's really going on with the situation. And all the other billions of actions and projects that build on each other and interact and interconnect in the billions of different ways that every part contributes to the whole on a scale and with a volume that you and I can hardly imagine, let alone fully understand or comprehend. Okay, ready? Exhale. We expel the old ideas, things that are no longer needed or don't belong, or that we've replaced with something better. And it flows. People from all over the world, from every walk of life, get grabbed by passions to affect positive change, to improve the lives of those around them, and they pump it out through networks, through organizations, spreading that passion to others who have the know-how and the means. Those with power build amazing things. And they're fed by people who have an unsatisfiable hunger to learn. How can we make this process quicker, cleaner, better? It's the most amazing machine that exists, but it's a delicate balance. Because a bloodstream that can so elegantly transport good ideas can just as easily transport bad ones. Some units aren't working for the good of the body, are stealing from the body, taking advantage or taking control. Is cancer anything other than cells that pursue their own growth at any cost and without limits, without any thought about the whole? But we fight back, closing ranks to heal the parts that have been damaged and clean out disease. And then the hands and muscles build so now the eye can see farther than ever. And then the optic nerve makes it so that what the eye sees, everyone sees. Lets us see something so far away. And then the heart lets us see what's so close. Okay, breathe in. When the whole body, every part is working together, we call that health. But when everybody's doing their part in the great body, every single person contributing to the whole so that we all benefit, so that everyone's discoveries, patience, lessons learned, hard work, and examples of love lift us all up. When every little part of every cell is feeding from the whole and giving back to the whole, when there's health for the whole human race together as one complex, immense, intimate, interdependent system, we call that heaven.
All right, welcome back to the show. So the lungs, Sandra, the lungs.
It's all about the lungs. Don't smoke. I don't know.
You'll have to watch the show afterwards.
I guess so.
Actually, it's turning out to be a really fantastic show today.
I know it is. We have some amazing guests.
And we're going to continue now because we have Basit Qureshi here joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. So now so you're here as a spokesperson for an organization called Muslims for Peace, right?
That's right.
And so maybe you can just give us an introduction to the organization and to yourself and your involvement with the organization.
Sure. So the platform is Muslims for Peace. The organization is the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Canada. And the Ahmadiyya Muslim community was founded in 1889 by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who we believe is the Messiah that was foretold by all the major religions, including really being the second coming of Jesus and trying to unite all of mankind. So this is a pretty dynamic organization of Muslims that's been around for the last 120, 130 years, but has really been around reviving the religion and bringing a peaceful message to the rest of the world.
What was the name that you called it?
Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, so Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Canada.
Okay.
So is it kind of like, I mean, I'm just trying to come up with a metaphor for the people might understand. Is it like a sect of Islam?
People
kind of
would
like,
call it a sect, yes.
Because you have the Shiites
the Sunnis
and the Sunnis.
Shias. This would be sort of a, you know, one of the, it's more around the Sunni type of Muslim, but really just a sect of Islam.
Now, do you guys have a particular mosque where the Ahmadiyya community is
We've got
centered?
tons of mosques. That's a great question. We've got tons of mosques. We've actually got one of the largest mosques in Canada, actually in Calgary.
Okay.
We've got another mosque, a very large mosque, one of the largest initial mosques in North America in Maple, Vaughan. And then we're...
Is it just east of the, you see it as you're driving up the 400?
Up the 400, and you can see it from Wonderland, like on some of the coasters up on Wonderland.
You know what, I've actually been there.
There you go.
I had somebody take me on a tour of that. I thought that was the largest mosque in North America.
It used to be the largest mosque until we opened one in Calgary, which is now the largest mosque in Calgary. We're actually opening one this weekend in Vancouver, which will be the largest mosque in British Columbia.
Wow.
So does that mean there's that big a community in Calgary and in Vancouver or in British Columbia? Because I didn't realize.
It's a large and growing community.
Okay.
So around the world, we have tens of millions of followers that are part of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. In Canada, the numbers are sort of in the 25 to maybe 35,000 people range. And all these mosques are really built from donations from individual members. So there's no government help, there's no other organizations. It's really just the community funding themselves, a mosque, and as a place of worship and a place, you know, really to demonstrate to the broader community that we live in that we're peaceful and we're integrated in the community, and you know, just a place for people to come together.
Well, that is really fabulous to hear. And isn't that guy that's the new mayor of Calgary, isn't he a Muslim?
He is a Muslim, Naheed Nenshi, which is pretty incredible, being one of the largest cities, a big metropolis in North America, now having a Muslim mayor.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible.
And he's doing a good job. I mean, everybody seems to like him.
And okay, so the other two sectors you had mentioned, the Sunnis and the Shiites.
Sure.
Okay, I've heard all about them, but how come I've never heard about this group?
The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is a relatively new community, being 100 years old or so, 120 years old. More so in the last little while, I think we've become much more engaged in sort of an outreach to the rest of the wider community that we live in. But generally speaking, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who we believe is a prophet, really came in to unite all religions again and really bring them all under more of a more moderate view of Islam to the world.
So can you talk a little bit about that? How is it different than the Sunnis and the Shiites, and why did that even need to happen?
Sure. So going back in the history, there is obviously just like the way Catholics and Protestants have had their own issues. The Muslim community's been around 1,500 years now. The Holy Prophet Muhammad came in the 6th century, and since then, there's been differences that have creeped up within communities and different ideologies. So essentially, there was a split between Sunnis and Shias, which are the two mainstream bodies of Muslims, really right after the death of the Holy Prophet in sort of the 600 Common Era.
Okay.
Since then, there's been multiple branches, just as there is in Christianity, just as there is in Hinduism, in all religions where, you have some tensions and dogmatic differences and people veer off.
Fair enough.
The way Ahmadiyya Muslims are a relatively small community, but we're much more vocal and becoming a dynamically growing community. We're the fastest growing community within the Muslim umbrella. And, again, the differences are more nuanced and it's hard to get into them. But really the main difference between Ahmadi Muslims and the rest of the broader Muslim community is that Ahmadi Muslims believe that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of India originally was the second coming of Jesus and really the Messiah that all major religions are today waiting for.
So that would be the Jesus for the Christianity, you would say. Okay.
So let's go over his name again. So Mirza
Ghulam Ahmad. So A-H-M-A-D.
So now, say for someone who might be Christian, they might say, no.
Sure.
This person, are you feeling resistance? Do you because this person is Muslim, right?
Sure.
And so, because religion is in many ways separates.
touchy subject.
I know it is. It is.
It's a touchy subject, but
But that's what we're here to talk about, right?
Yeah, to be frank,
So are you receiving that the other religions might find that invasive? How dare you say that's my Jesus?
Sure.
Or they might be inviting. I don't know. What has been the response?
I think the response is mixed, and the response is always mixed. I think when you present your views, you'll have some people that will take it one way and others the other. But really, the message that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad came with was one of love for all, hatred for none, which is a really cool message.
We can all agree on that anyway.
In today's day,
yes.
Right? And it was one of really peace and compassion and really being able to unite all of mankind together to bring, concepts like morality, justice, and universal brotherhood really to the overall population. And one of the other major visions that he had was really he has come to really end all the religious conflict and the bloodshed that's going on, stop the jihad by the sword, as Muslims have been mistakenly characterized as following jihad by the sword.
Right.
He really came to emphatically say that there is no more jihad. Jihad is really by the pen, and you should be winning the hearts and minds of people. That's the way we should be thinking, and really just a message of bringing people together.
Wow. So Basa, what makes everyone thinks this person was the Messiah as opposed to somebody else? What was it about this particular person that gave him that, I don't know, reigning title?
He actually claimed to be the Messiah. He actually claimed himself that he has been the one chosen. He is God's appointed prophet. Second coming of Jesus, the Messiah that was foretold by the Prophet Muhammad and all other major religions. Everybody seems to be waiting for a Messiah, and he said he was the one. So he felt that he was in direct communication with God. There was some signs of his truth as well. There was, there have been some signs of his truth as well, and we can talk about that. Or
well, you know what? I'm just thinking it's great news if it's true, because. What?
but have you even heard? See, that's the thing for me. It's like how come we haven't heard about that?
Well, because we haven't heard yet. It's coming, and we're hearing about it today.
Okay.
And soon everyone will know about it.
Okay. So can we just add, what are some of the signs you...
Sure. So some of the signs in the early days were around calamities. So he foretold or he prophesied about the plague.
Okay.
He prophesied about various earthquakes that happened. He also prophesied about the lunar and solar eclipse happening in the same month, which has never happened before.
Okay.
So there was a bunch of signs in sort of the late 1800s when he came and when he claimed to be the Messiah, which he did get a lot of attention on. And so he was this one person in this obscure village in India, and today he has a following of 50 millions, hundreds of millions of people.
Could he heal people?
No.
Okay.
So he never claimed to heal people or do any kind of miraculous kind of typical miracles that you would hear.
Okay.
So let's talk about his message and the message that is being carried on by the Ahmadiyya community today.
The most recent one is around Muslims for peace. We've obviously seen a lot of negative stereotypes in the media, and some justifiably so, because sometimes you hear of all the terrorists end up being of Muslim background. It's not that the religion is teaching them to do that, but they are incorrectly claiming that this is the religion driving them to do that.
Right.
We think that's really sad and a misrepresentation of Islam. Islam, the actual word, means peace. The actual word means peace.
See, I did not even know that.
So, I mean, you know what I mean? Muslims are people who believe in peace. So think about the connotations of where we are today and what the words actually mean. So this is what he came back to tell us, and this is what we are, the message that we are going back out to the world with, is Muslims are about peace. We are we're not fun-loving, we are fun-loving, of course we're fun-loving. But we are peace-loving. We're peace-loving, we're tolerant, we want to protect minorities, we want to separate church and state, which is very different than what most other Muslim leaders say. And so these are sort of the differences that we're bringing out to the people.
So, I mean, it's great to hear that. And do you think, though, sometimes, like, the conspiracy people often say that, that whoever, this is what I've heard anyway, got on YouTube, that
must be true.
The powers that be are trying to ignite a war between the Muslim world and the Western world.
Trying to? I mean,
it's already on, right?
I think we've done pretty good.
Right.
If they're trying to, it hasn't happened.
No.
Well, in some ways, you're saying it has happened because there's a lot of.
Those are personal opinions, but there's this war on terror, and there does seem to be, there is this feeling, I would say, in the Muslim countries where if you went and talked to the man on the street, they may feel that, hey, there is a war going on the religion. Again, I don't think we are saying that at all. We've never said that. I don't think that's really what we're all about. We're all about, again, just message of peace and tolerance and love for all, hatred for none. Is really kind of the message we're on about. Now,
is that message? I mean, we heard from our last guest who talked about when she was in that oasis in Western Egypt, and there were people who were just people on the street, but they happened to be Muslims, Libyan or Egyptian, whatever. Because it seems to me at that level of just people dealing with people, it doesn't matter where you go, any reasonable person is just going to treat another person like another person.
Like they would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Right. I agree. I think, at the base level, you've got a handful of people who've kind of hijacked our religion at the broad level, and maybe these 11 Al-Qaeda guys who blew up the buildings and all this stuff, like they've hijacked.
But they don't represent.
And they're representing 1 billion people who have diverse views, who have, maybe it's unfortunate, but that's the state we're in today.
So what is the organization Muslims for Peace doing? Are there any events, or what kind of activities are they doing to kind of to work with the mainstream
get the message
Canadian
out there.
Population and get that message out?
Sure, that's a great, we've done a bunch of events recently. We did one at Roy Thompson Hall, which was the life of Muhammad. And talking about the Holy Prophet, because he had some negative attention again in the media, given the cartoons and I don't know all the negative stuff that was going on recently. We did an event at Roy Thompson Hall, which was very well attended. The other initiative that we've had recently is the month of May. We've really put out to go out and hit at least 20 to 35% of Canada's population.
Non-Muslim, right?
Non-Muslim,
yes.
And going to rural towns. Right across the country, 80 cities, from Fergus, Ontario to Alliston, Ontario, to really, really small towns. Again, members of the community knocking door to door and talking about Muslims for Peace. What do we stand for? What is Islam really? What does Islam mean? Who is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad? Who is the Messiah? Who do we think is the Messiah? And what was his message of peace, revival, universal brotherhood? And all those types of things.
What's the response been like?
The response has been really excellent, actually.
Wow.
When you go door to door and you actually do this at a personal level, Canadians, we're typically very friendly, and we're open, and we're interested in hearing other views. So, you may have the odd occasional difficult conversation, but more often than not, you're finding it to be a very, very pleasant conversation. People are open. People want to know more. People are accepting of the literature. We're giving out free Qurans, free literature, just giving a different impression and really trying to hone the true message of Islam.
I have to say, I was in Turkey a few years back, and I had met this Muslim person, and he was big on the Quran. He was very faithful and devoted. It was really interesting because he took it upon himself. He spent maybe 5 or 6 hours with me, and we went through the Quran, and he told me all about it, what it meant, and he said, I want you to take this message back with you to North America so that they don't think we're all like what you think we are.
Sure.
So I thought, that was life-changing for me because I got some insight into what the Quran really was, at least and this person was living it. And so, and I certainly felt that when I was in Turkey with the rest of the Muslim community. But it was really interesting because he said, this is who we really are. It's not what the media tells you. This is what I want you to take. Can you take this back? Can you please take this back and tell them?
That's a great point. And to that point, even in Canada, we've actually, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is again gone out to all the various libraries and organizations in the main cities at least, and given them copies of the Quran and given them copies of our literature. So if you go to major libraries anywhere in Toronto or the Greater Toronto Area or major cities in Canada, you will find, literature that we've presented and we've given for free so that we can really educate Canadians on a different vision and a new vision for Muslims for Peace.
Wow.
You know, I think I think we're very fortunate in Canada to have your community, the Ahmadiyya community, doing what you're doing and settling here in Canada. Mm-hmm. And because it sounds like it's actually a very Canadian approach. Yeah. You know, a very Canadian brand of Islam.
Right. No, I appreciate that. I think, you know, obviously Canadians were just friendly and we're open to ideas. We're tolerant. We're a tolerant society. So this is a great base for us to really, you know, spread the message of peace to North America in general and the Americas in general. You know, we have a lot of missionary work that we do right across the globe. But even from Canada, we've got a base where we're going out to Latin America, we're going out to the Caribbean, and really spreading the message, Muslims for peace and the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, talking about the Messiah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and his message.
Okay, so lots of stuff to find out more about. Yes. Now, Basit, is there like a website or a place if people want to get interested
or another event?
Canadians want to get involved and find out more about Muslims for Peace or the Ahmadiyya community?
www.amjcanada.com is a place where you can learn all about the organization, all about our history, all about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the Messiah, and all the events that we have in Canada open to the public.
Thank you for making it simple. AMJ.
AMJcanada.com.
Okay. All right, Basit.
Thank you so much.
You'll have to stay in touch and come back and keep us informed about what's going on, and wish you all the best.
Maybe bring some video of an event or something that you're doing.
Absolutely. We'd love to do that. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Actually, well, we don't have any video specific to Muslims for Peace, but I do have a video about the secret UFO war in the Antarctic.
Okay, well,
which I think we should all know about. So let's watch this, and we're going to come back with Sean Dalton as Liquid Lunch hits the home stretch. We'll be right back.
If it be now, 'tis not to come. If it be not to come, it will be now. If it be not now, yet it will come. The readiness is all. The fleet is ready.
Antarctic, an area larger than the combined area of the United States and Europe. The American government is sending a naval expedition.
Thumbs up to this gentleman. The Secretary has approved our plan, appointing you, Admiral Byrd, as the officer in charge of the expedition, and you, Admiral Cruzen, as the task force commander. And we've got everything we need. That makes Operation High Jump the greatest polar expedition in history.
At no time is going to be our greatest handicap. By the time we get through this very difficult pace back, the summer will have ended and the fall will have set in. Never before has anyone attempted to take a fleet of thin-skinned steel ships through 300 miles or more of crushing ice pack.
I have great faith in your skill, courage, and determination. Now, gentlemen,
Admiral Nimitz reviewed the operations plan. The expedition will comprise 2 groups. central land plane group to explore the interior from Little America, and 2 seaplane groups, the eastern to map that half of the continental shoreline, and the western to map the opposite coast of Antarctica. After the original orders have been issued, 3 months of planning are needed to organize the giant venture.
Back to the game. The game.
The game.
It's the game. Welcome back to the game. But you see, there's UFOs. There's a big UFO war in Antarctica in 1947, Sandra. Wow. And you didn't even know anything about it.
No,
we're all paying the price every day because we don't know about it. That's why the Leafs lost the game last night.
You know what? There's a lot I don't know, Hugh. And why the Leafs lost is one of the greatest mysteries probably ever.
Sean, what's the problem? Why did the Leafs lose last night?
They gave up. They didn't have good defense in the last couple minutes, and Boston put an extra attacker, and that put massive pressure on their defense. It just cracked them.
They quit. Boston didn't quit.
They thought they had it in the bag, right? They got too cocky.
I got to give it to Boston. They beat a really rugged.
They deserve to win.
They did.
I said whoever wins this game deserves to win the series.
As much as I love the Maple Leafs, Boston was the better team, and they beat them.
Yep.
So you can't deny that.
They won.
You know, even though I don't
fair
like it.
Fair and square.
They did.
Wow.
That's hockey. You either win or lose. There's no
no in between. There's no shades of gray here, right?
Well, they went in overtime tied, so they could have won, but they didn't.
But how heartbreaking! Oh my God.
It was crushing.
I'm still heartbroken. Yeah, and I don't even care.
I just feel for everybody. That's you could hear a pin drop last night in Toronto.
You could.
It's just so everybody was in shock, mourning.
Yeah, we were.
Wow. It was like the JFK assassin. Well, maybe not, but
Not that bad.
And Toronto was on that level.
Yeah.
You can rank it up there with that kind of shock.
Maybe worse, actually.
Yeah, maybe worse because we're not Americans. So.
Okay, Sean. So let's see. What are we talking about today?
Canada's broken mosaic, the literary critics of multiculturalism. So in previous debates that we've had, you've raised some interesting questions and points of view, and I reviewed my previous interviews, and I wanted to try to find evidence to support my arguments that the multicultural policy is not a culture, it's a political system, a lot like socialism or communism, used to divide society into tribes. So politicians can, like if there's Abbotsford South Asian community condemns BC Liberals' ethnic outreach strategy. They used it in BC recently. We'll see in this election if actually it destroys the Liberal Party of Canada or people will it says, the New Democrats leaked the Liberals' ethnic vote outreach plan last Thursday. The 2012 document suggests officials from the Premier's office, the Multicultural Ministry, and the Liberal caucus plan to use taxpayer resources to glean voters from visible minority groups and better their chances in key ridings. The plan also suggested the government also apologizes around historical wrongs as a means to gain, quote, quick wins for the Liberals. And the Liberals have been known for this. This is the whole reason Trudeau did
and
this.
that is, I mean, you can, if they're using the policy and they're actually defining groups and targeting them just to get votes.
That's the reason it exists.
That is a wrong. Well, I'm not sure that's the reason it exists.
The same thing. Harper is totally guilty of that.
Get out. How?
In Quebec? Didn't he do that with all the French writings?
Look,
and he did that in Brampton?
He did it with the French writing in spite of the fact that he knew that he wasn't going to be popular in Quebec. So he reached out to the progressive people in Quebec and hoping the hell that there was someone out there that didn't want to divide the country or separate. So it was kind of a Hail Mary strategy.
I know that Harper did a whole bunch of events that were specifically ethnic. And he went and spoke at those specifically ethnic
Well, Jason
events.
Kenney ran around like the world's biggest salesman to all the. He learned greetings in 170 different languages. Like he had to sell the party. That's what politics has become down to. That's what the multicultural policy has. Those are the barriers to the politicians.
You're really a salesperson.
But you're not just selling to Canadians. You're selling to groups and tribes and communities. And I'd just like to read this from the Northern Mangus, chapter 13, Frog in the Throat. Trudeau, ironically, had given the first shove himself. In October 1971, he had introduced legislation to make Canada, quote, a multicultural country within a bilingual framework. Remember, the bilingual is outside Quebec, only 8.5% of citizens speak French as a first language, so it's not even 1 out of 10. So in 1971, he had this amazing idea.
We can do better.
Henceforth, while only 2 languages were official, all cultures would be equal. This idea had originally been floated by the B&B Commission. The point, Trudeau explained, was to, quote, break down discriminatory attitudes and cultural jealousies, end quote. It actually created the opposite effect. Ukrainian Canadians, Italian Canadians, Chinese Canadians, and so on need no longer feel second-class citizens because Ottawa would officially recognize their cultures and would fund these. But while multiculturalism made bilingualism go down some throats a little easier and bought Trudeau a lot of ethnic votes, obviously the BC Liberals are trying to buy ethnic votes. They just got nailed for it, and we'll see whether or not they'll lose the election over it. I don't think they will, but I hope they do, because I don't want to see that kind of policy. I want to see people make the politicians punish them for this kind of thing. They're not campaigning on the issues. They're looking at people as a tribe instead of part of the Canadian society. I find that a form of racism and discrimination against people, especially if they feel like they're Canadian, and I hope they make her pay for it, because,
I agree with you on that.
I'm really hoping that they feel Canadian enough to reject her vision of tribalism.
It's rare that you guys agree on
But
the
while
same thing.
multiculturalism made bilingualism go down some throats a little easier and bought Trudeau a lot of ethnic votes, it turned a lot of French Canadians off. The policy would, quote, accelerate the retreat of French Canadians into Quebec, warned Guy Rocher, the vice chairman of the Canada Council, quote, outside Quebec, we are nothing more than another ethnic minority. So it basically marginalized the Quebec citizens and made them feel like they're not one of the founding people of the country. They're just another ethnic group in the country to be pandered to, and maybe that's why Harper went to Quebec, because he didn't want them feeling like they should be just another. He wanted to make them try to feel special, and even though it's an uphill battle for the Conservatives in Quebec because they're severely hated, they actually won, I think, 5 seats in the last election in Quebec. And when they asked the manager for the Conservatives, how many seats do you think you'll win? He goes, we'd be lucky to win 1. So they did 5 times as well as they thought they would do, because in Quebec, people are starting to wonder, like, how long is this going to drag on? How long is this battle between us and them and all the BS we've been up through for the last couple decades? It's exhausting.
But I happen to know that Harper, before the election came, was doing a lot of events in Brampton and a lot of events in the Black community.
Well, I think Brampton is, what, the 8th largest city in Canada?
But he was targeting the Indian community, and also the Black community.
According to
a lot of those in Toronto as well.
According to the census data, 13% of people in Brampton speak Punjabi as a first language at home. That's 1 out of 10 citizens, or about 86,000 people. That's a massive. That's almost 100,000.
But he's as guilty as what you're saying that the guys in BC are doing now.
This is unfortunately he wants to win votes. They have to do this. Politicians.
But if you want them to get caught, why shouldn't Harper get caught? Be called
when
out
you're a
for it.
politician, you have to do things to win.
But you're saying you hope that these guys don't get out there.
I hope they lose.
Okay, well, so we could say the same thing for Harper.
Sanders, my little pit bull.
In his book, this book's called Sound and Illusions: The Cult of Multiculturalism by Neil Bissendath. He came to Canada in '73, and he released this book in 1994, and it was republished in 2002. It's a best-selling book. In his book, The New Canada by Preston Manning, I'll read a quote from it. It says, quote, People, regardless of their origin, do not immigrate to preserve their culture and nurture their ethnic distinctiveness. If they wish to do that, they would stay where they are because the environment is more conducive to the perpetuation of one's culture and ethnicity. Immigrants come here to become Canadians, to be productive and contributing members of their chosen society. I am one of them. I did not come here to be labeled as an ethnic or a member of the multicultural community, or to be coddled with preferential treatment, nurtured with special grants, and then sit on the sidelines and watch the world go by. I came here to be a member of the mainstream of the Canadian society. I do not need paternalism. I need opportunity. I do not want affirmative action. I expect fairness. I do not need special consideration. I wish to be treated equally. Whether or not I preserve my cultural background is my personal choice. Whether or not an ethnic group preserves its cultural background is the group's choice. The state has no business in either. And that was Professor Reyes Khan, chair of the political science department at the University of Winnipeg, saying that.
You know, that's making me... We need a new policy instead of multiculturalism.
How about
Sandra?
interculturalism? I rewrote the charter to include interculturalism duties and responsibilities, and it would basically promote a pan-Canadian identity with the good and the bad of our history for all to study and see and to show how we started out and how we progressed over time. It was a slow process, but I think we're getting to a better place.
So interculture.
Interculturalism. And add property rights, because the charter doesn't have property rights like the Bill of Rights in the States, so we should... Interculturalism means shared values, shared language, shared history, shared...
Okay, so it doesn't matter about the culture. I mean,
well, everyone becomes a Canadian. Everyone has the same, you know, everyone can have the same...
I think that could work.
On the same team.
Right? Actually, I think that's a really good idea.
See? After all this, we're finally coming together on it.
And I've never even heard that term, interculturalism. Is that an actual term?
It is. It's an actual term.
It comes from the Greek word for intercourse.
Yeah, it basically means intercourse, but not in the way you're thinking. I can see what you're thinking. This book's called J.L. Granstein released this best-selling book, Whose War Is It Anyway? How Canada Can Survive in the Post-9/11 World. I'll show you how multiculturalism encourages tribalism, which could lead to terrorism. Carol Off, in her book The Ghosts of the Medak Pocket, wrote of the 250,000 Croats who had arrived in Canada from the 60s on, quote, their continuing identity as Croats was powerful and much encouraged by the Canadian government, she said. In 1971, Canada declared itself officially multicultural, and Ottawa began to offer millions of dollars to ethnic communities in Canada to preserve their immigrant identities, a well-meaning policy that unfortunately exacerbated the problem of the angry immigrants who weren't even trying to fit into the society of their adopted country. That was, of course, true for more than Croats. The government, Off goes on, funded language schools and folklore centers, and also, as it turned out, publications disseminating radical nationalism and right-wing messages. Harper wouldn't like these people. What Ottawa did not try to do was to make Canadians out of them. Off continues by delineating the pro-Nazi Ustash's connection among Canadian Croats and the extraordinary fact that the very idea of the independent Croatian nation, including part of Bosnia, was born at the Norville Community Centre, set up by Croatian Canadians in southern Ontario. This community centre became the heart of Gojek Suak territory. An Ottawa restaurant owner and house painter, when Franjo Trujman took over the government of Croatia in 1990, Sušak headed his leaders' call for the Croatian diaspora, because if you fund your group, you're no longer Canadian, you're just an ethnic community, or they call them diaspora, that's the word. I'm not too familiar with that word, but I've seen it more and more, to come home. In other words, not Canada, it's Croatia. He quickly became a provocateur, literally firing off calls, quote, the first shot in the Croatian War for Independence from Belgrade. Soon he was Croatia's defense minister. Remember, he was from Canada. He used his connections in Canada to raise money for Croatia, up to $200 million, Off suggests, for weapons and aid. They used it for war jets, for tanks, for fully automatic weapons. Sušak eventually presided over the, quote, ethnic cleansing of Serbs in the Medak Pocket, where Canadian soldiers, trying to prevent the slaughter of Serbian women, children, and old men, killed Croats in large-pitched battle. Is it fair to say that Sušak was a war criminal, and if not, he had not died before the creation of the International Criminal Court, he would almost certainly have been tried. The point of the Croatian events is that Canada completely failed to turn Sušak into a Canadian. He had arrived here in 1969 and lived in Canada for more than 2 decades, but his allegiance was to Croatia first, last, and always. Was he any different from the Sikh terrorists? Remember the bombings in 1885, which killed 329 Canadians? The Tamils, the Palestinians, the Irish, or the other ethnic Canadians who send money for political purposes or for guns to their ancestral homeland? Why has Canada failed to impress its values on the hearts of those to whom it gave shelter and citizenship? Why does the link of, quote, blood and soul remain so strong? And the key question, Why won't the people who live here give their first allegiance to Canada and its national interests?
By the way, Sean, I just want to say I stopped sending guns to Ireland back in the 60s.
Thank you, Hugh. We appreciate that. Very Canadian
I
of you.
prefer to give them to the homeless people so they can defend themselves on the mean streets of Toronto.
In a previous debate, we mentioned that I mentioned that multiculturalism might affect our economic prowess, and you disagreed. So I actually found a book, Competing Against America: Why Canada's Fallen in the Race for Talent and Wealth and What to Do About It by Michael Alexander, 2005.
Interesting.
Book. Just like to read a little excerpt. I've chosen small excerpts. I'm not going to read big, huge things.
Okay, good. I'm enjoying this, Sean.
Very cool. This chapter is called Myth 3, Multiculturalism Promotes Peace and Prosperity. The politics of multiculturalism also eat away at the social conditions that promote national prosperity. The project of recommitting Canada to the equal opportunity ideal as the necessary means to achieving our economic potential will require all Canadians to focus on the task of cultivating their own talents and the talents of those around them, with a view to creating an atmosphere where decisions regarding advancement in schools, community associations, and the workplace are based on merit. Yet the great Canadian problem continues to be how to manifest the national will in the face of regional and linguistic divisions. Quebec and all those other ethnic groups that we mentioned before, all wanting entitlements from the government because we've encouraged, well, Trudeau set this thing up. And the omnipresent influence of American society. That problem has been exacerbated by multiculturalism, which invites us to divide ourselves in an almost infinite number of ways. Can we manifest the national will we need to build a just and prosperous society when the government asks us to define ourselves in relation to over 190 ethnic categories at last count? This problem is made all the worse by the conflicts that necessarily arise when groups compete for public entitlements and recognition. Multiculturalism undermines the national cohesion that we need to succeed in a fiercely competitive global economy. I think we're emerging from that primitive time. Like we're slowly emerging from that we mentioned in the last couple debates. I think it'll take a long time, but I think these conversations are necessary in order for us to make the transition. I think it'll take 20 years.
I think we've had a real problem always as a country putting forward what we're about.
Yeah, we don't promote
We've always
ourselves.
reacted against something.
Welcome to Canada. Don't come into the community. Stay as you are. We'll ignore you. We'll tolerate you, but we won't accept you. And
well, I think it's been tough for us to come up with our own national identity. I mean, that's a big old. I mean, people have been talking about that for a long time.
I talked to a couple of people in the subway yesterday, and when I was giving out my debate flyers to people, as I do on, and I was told by the gentleman that I talked to, a little gentleman from the Caribbean, he said Canada has no culture. I said, God bless you for saying that, but I hope. What about basketball, baseball, hockey, gender equality? And he's kind of giggling. He goes, okay, I'll watch your videos. I'm like, it's just some food for thought, right? Like, we've been conditioned to believe this, so what can I do other than to try to tell people we actually have something that binds us together?
And I think we don't appreciate, I think we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Yeah, we put ourselves down.
Somehow I think part of the Canadian psyche is we don't think we're good enough.
Cultural
we don't think we are...
lovable?
Yeah, that's it.
I think
you might be.
We're not lovable. No, I think the country needs to take Joshua's clearing course.
Yeah. You're right.
Did you guys ever read The Canadian Immigrant? This is August 2011.
Okay. Flower power.
Yeah, this is from the section Living, and Mainik Bhatt, an international trained journalist from India, writes about his everyday experience as an immigrant in this column. It's amazing he doesn't say as a Canadian in this column, but I'm just going to go with it because a lot of people think like this, so that's okay with me. So this is called Knowing Others Better. How much should we try to learn about other cultures? And this is what he said. The Chamber of Commerce I work for shares its office with several small businesses. These businesses, folks, come from different parts of the world, from Ukraine, Iran, China, India, among other places. We greet each other in the pantry, at the coffee shop, in the elevators. We nod, smile, occasionally exchange comments on the weather, and are on our way out. I've often felt that there's absolutely nothing that I know about them. How much do we know about others? How much should we know? These questions have particular relevance to Canada because multiculturalism is the prevailing ethos here. For most of us newcomers, however, multiculturalism is an empty slogan. It means nothing at all. It begins and ends by occasionally partaking food from another culture at the food court in the mall. While there are notable exceptions amongst us, by and large, we remain blissfully unaware of others. In sharp contrast to our attitude of deliberately ignoring other cultures, it is our pet peeve that mainstream Canada doesn't understand us. We assume it's our fundamental right that everyone else should know everything about us. And I'm a researcher, so I do know a lot about other countries' cultures. I study them because I had to compare Canada to other countries when I'm writing my book. Does Canada's culture, how different is it from the States? How does it stack up against the socialists in Europe? Pretty damn good, actually. We're not going broke like the European states. You know, we have gender equality. Some countries in Southeast Asia would love to have these things.
Yeah.
You know, they'd love to have them. It'd be better. They'd have better societies. How can they not know? After all, isn't this multicultural country? We fervently argue. This process passes through several phases. Initially, when the person is new to Canada, she or he attempts to adjust slightly, while actually resisting, albeit unconsciously. Then, once she or he has been here for some time, about a year or so, and is vaguely familiar with the different ethnicities living here, she or he turns into a serious defender of his or own culture, disdainful, if not derisive, of others. We criticize what we don't understand. Yes, we do make some efforts to understand and learn about, quote, Canadian culture and somehow manage to get some basics right. But here too, often, our understanding is clouded by prejudices and an unwillingness to accept. In essence, that's what multiculturalism boils down to for most newcomers. And since Canadians are extremely politically correct, they seldom point this out to us.
You know what? It's funny. It's funny because this article actually reminds me of something that I think is really important. It's almost like if you aren't from another country,
you're
you have
loser,
less importance.
or you don't belong.
And I'll tell you, okay, I grew up with that kind of feeling because my parents were born here. Okay, my grandparents, so I guess that makes me second or third generation. My grandparents were born there, but came here. So my parents were born here, and so most people I know in Toronto, they either came here themselves at a young age, or their parents are from. Their parents are from wherever. So I'm like one down, so second generation, third generation. And whenever they would say, so, you know, where are you from? I always felt like, well, nowhere. I'm just from here.
Absolutely.
I always felt less important. And even when I look at government systems now, you can go to malls and you can go to kiosks. You see kiosks in these malls for new immigrants and settlements and people who. So for people who are looking for jobs or ways to find jobs or education, we fall now. When you're from Canada, you actually fall between the cracks.
The problem is this
There's a lot of that.
In the 2011 census, there was 7.2 million citizens foreign-born in the country. We have 35 million people. That's 20% of the Canadian population. We focus so much on the other, we forgot to focus on ourselves.
And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that in judgment. What I'm saying is that it's basically it's almost like there's a forgotten sector now because there's enough people that can say they are Canadian, born Canadian. That's getting bigger, and because we're so used to because everybody comes from somewhere else, we haven't thought about that growing population. And eventually all these people who come here are going to have kids who are going to be born here.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
There's evidence in Diane Francis's book, Immigration, the Economic Case, that their kids are actually struggling in the west end of Toronto in the school system. There's classes with at least 25 kids in the class that speak different languages, and the teachers can't deal with it. They don't know the languages of these kids, and they're exasperated. And it's a myth that the kids of immigrant parents will do better than the parents. There's actually studies done. If the parents do well, the kids usually do well. If the parents are doing poorly, it spills over. Yeah, the kids usually don't have any examples to go from.
That's probably a universal
I would think
thing.
so.
I think it is.
Okay, so I was going to say something, but now I forgot.
I'm going to read something from my book, but
okay. Well, yes, Sean. Yeah, we have to wrap it up soon. But
Always
go ahead
fill it
and
in.
let's conclude.
Okay. How much time do I have?
Oh, I don't know. How much time you want? A couple minutes.
Jeez, I should have done this earlier.
Well, just do. You know, reading isn't the best on TV, but we do want to hear. We want to hear it. We want to hear.
All right.
The book, Sean. We want.
All right, I'll do two excerpts out of two really best-selling authors. Okay. William D. Gardner was a former Olympic athlete and a professor of English. He wrote 7 best-selling books. Some included The Book of Absolutes, a critique of relativism and a defense of universals, Constitutional Crack-Up, Canada and the Coming Showdown with Quebec, The Trouble with Democracy, and The Trouble with Canada. In 1992, William released a bestseller entitled, quote, The War Against the Family. It's a massive 600-page book. It's this big fat, I have it at home. I'm only got a quarter of the way through it. Here are William's thoughts on Canada's multicultural experiment. Quote, multiculturalism is another global ed thrust. It generally arises from a political effort to quell interethnic strife by segmenting the voting market and urging appeal to an abstract ideal labeled, quote, multicultural. All meaningful, natural, cultural, ethnic differences which are subsumed under the reigning ideology by means of financial fact, they may be equally valid, but they're also intensely competitive with each other in philosophical, legal, and moral terms. Just to take one example in Canada, this has meant the extinguishing by omission of much of the core British history on which the nation was constructed. Teacher James S. Cunningham writes that, quote, of the 120 books approved as history texts by the Scarborough, Ontario Board of Education, names like Britain, British, and England were conspicuously left absent. There was no pride taught in our historic British connections. Rather, we were taught to shame for alleged colonial deeds. Cunningham says that barely a dozen of his 100 of college students had ever heard of the Magna Carta, which is where we got our bloody laws from, the Plains of Abraham, which was Wolfe defeated Montcalm, which made Canada an English-speaking nation, not a French one, or were aware of the British origins of the common law, which is again the Magna Carta, or those of our political institutions. A number of students even vehemently denied those things. Some recent Canadian history textbooks omit any mention whatsoever of World War II. As one letter writer complained, quote, my father died twice, killed once on the battlefield, and again by the history writers, end quote. And one more. J.L. Granstein has received 6 honorary degrees and is a member of the Order of Canada. He has written, co-written, edited, co-edited 71 books, as many were bestsellers. He served as a director of the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa from 1998 to 2000. He also taught history at York University. Upon retirement in 1995, J.L. was named Professor Emeritus. In the spring of 1998, he published a highly acclaimed, quote, Who Killed Canadian History? Here's how the political correctness, cultural relativism, and socially engineered socialism became part of Canada's cultural heritage. Quote, the federal government committed to a multiculturalism that is enshrined in the Constitution as a fundamental characteristic of the nation, promotes a very weak nationalism. Remain a Somali, a Taiwanese, a Ukrainian, or a Bolivian, the message goes, and you'll be just as good a Canadian as everyone else. In effect, the message is that Canada, or English Canada at least, has no culture. Moreover, the federal, provincial, and municipal governments will give any group money to preserve its original culture, heritage, and language. In Quebec, in sharp contrast, the provincial government controls immigration policy and follows a deliberate anti-Canadian approach as it half-heartedly tries to assimilate immigrants into the Francophone culture. Unthinking Canadians complacently assume that our schools and our society had turned them into good, bland, peace-loving Canadians. But a combination of federal multiculturalism, ignorance of an understanding of their new homeland, and the practices of progressive education had prevented them from becoming what they ought to have become, Canadians.
Okay. Although what I would say is that despite all that doom and gloom, because it sounds doomy and gloomy.
It does.
I think that we're still doing all right. At least for now. Got to keep those fingers crossed. Got to keep the country together. Got to come up with a Canadian strategy.
Well, I think, and I think that's what he's saying. That's exactly what
that's why
Sean is saying.
That's right, Sean.
I like the idea of interculturalism, though. That's a very...
And duties and responsibilities would define our country as, like gender equality. We should have some property rights. The government shouldn't be allowed to take people's properties.
I agree with that. And we should have the different cultures having intercourse with each other. Right? Sandra? That's what you said?
Okay. Sean, help me here.
Okay.
Well, you can understand them, I guess.
You don't even have to understand them.
Oh, God.
It's all about human relations. Human relations.
Forget the language, right? Just forget the language.
Don't need language.
Yeah, at the club after a couple of beers, I guess it just doesn't matter, right?
No.
So.
Okay. Awesome,
but then gender
Sean.
wouldn't matter either.
Oh, well, it depends on who you are. Okay. Sean, thanks for doing this today. Thanks to Sandra. Thanks, everybody in the studio.
Awesome show.
It was a good show.
It was really, really good.
Yeah, it was good, actually.
I came in a little trepidatious, and now I'm ready for the rest of the week.
We had a mystery guest, and it all worked out.
All worked out perfect. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week for more Liquid Lunch right here on thatchannel.com.
No more hail.
breaking the code.